Are you ready to overcome the complexities and burdens that come with your success? Join the team at Centura Wealth Advisory in the Live Life Liberated podcast. Now, on to the show.
Tony, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Just to add a little context to the viewers and listeners, Tony is a lifelong entrepreneur and business owner and made a journey from operating and owning a business to an eventual sale of the business. We wanted him to come on today and share his journey. And I think it's a very interesting and inspiring story, but I don't want to spoil any of it, so I'll let you jump in and just share a little bit about your background and history.
Sure. Yeah, so I got my bachelor degree in psychology in Peking University in China in 1987, and then I did my master degree there. And in 1989, I came to U.S. to attend UCSD's graduate program in psychology, just like many other young people in China at that time. So I came here and then got my Ph.D. in 1993, and I did post-doc for about half a year. And I found out that I'm not the type of guy who can devote my whole life in research. So I decided to join my friend who was running a computer business. So I joined him in 1994. And in 1995, my friend retired and handed the company to me and two of other customers of him. So we ran the computer business until 2021. So what we did was to export computers from US to China. And the computers we exported are made by Compaq, HP, Sony, and then we resold it to China.
Wow. So I'm going to stop you to say, because I want to back up just a second. And when you made that the first move to the U.S., and you said there, hey, a lot of young students were doing that. I guess, was that, looking back now, I think we should probably say, oh, that was maybe an easy decision. But I don't know, at that time, was that an easy jump, just leaving China, coming to the U.S. for that program? Or was that a 50-50 decision at that time?
Oh, I'm completely dedicated to the process to come to U.S. to study.
Okay, so that was part. You kind of knew. Okay, this is what I want to do next.
Yeah, I was determined to do that at the moment. Since in that time in China, even though the Chinese government had a open policy,
started to open in the late 70s, early 80s, and doing more.
But still, you people there still didn't have a lot of freedom to do things they want. Yeah. And again, for my major psychology, it was essentially non-existing in China before I attended the school. There were only 2 universities had that major. But in U.S. it's highly advanced, and there almost all the colleges have a psychology department. So really, I want to catch up with the advancement of my major.
That seemed like the likely path of taking that next step in psychology. Is okay. It's maybe more advancement in the U.S. in that
Yes,
area.
Yeah, it's a natural process. And so I was the first student in my class who came to U.S. So after I came to U.S., many other students joined the group and came to U.S. too later on. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what do you think it was then? So fast forward, and then you're obviously Ph.D. You spent a lot of time Ph.D. and then doing some post-doctorate studies as well. I guess what was the interest or draw that you think took you to business versus continuing that path?
Yeah. In my mind, there is a striking difference between academia and in business. The major difference is that in research world, you pretty much repeat doing the same thing. So even though you make a big discovery somewhere, the process and the tools, the way you proceed remain pretty much the same. So while in business world, you have a lot of interactions with people, which I would love to do, and you run into different things every day, and you have to make different decisions for different things every day. So I love the challenge. in the business world. And even though I've never done business before I left UCSD, but from my observation, I decided that's probably is the field I would enjoy more than in academia.
Yeah. So you made the leap, went into business, so it sounds like kind of almost like a computer exporting business that
Yes, yeah.
you were working in, and then ultimately at some point led to founding your own business, right?
Yes, actually halfway through, actually in the second year after I joined my friend's company, and my friend decided to retire and handed the company to me and to other people. So I became the shareholder of the company, and that's my first exposure to business ownership. So I enjoyed it a lot, even though it's a very, very challenging business. So that furthered my determination to remain in business.
Probably a lot of competition in those late 90s. Is that kind of
it's a very, very competitive business, and also we're talking about exporting, importing, currency fluctuation. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of things I have to handle. I have to work with a bank to get a letter of credit done. A lot of things are new to me, and that's what I enjoy the most. Yeah. So every day I need to learn new things. Yeah.
So how did you then pivot once you, I guess, exited that? You ultimately started a biotech services business. Is that kind of, you made that transition at some point, right?
Yes. As you mentioned, that the computer business is a very competitive one. So by early year 2000, China started to make their own computers, so make it more competitive to export computers from US to China. So, but on the other hand, I have a lot of friends in biotech industries, institutions in UCSD, and also the biotech industry was booming in San Diego. So all my friends told me that I should go into the biotech business. So I sold my shares in the computer business and then set up the biotech service company from scratch.
Okay.
Literally, it's from scratch. I even didn't know what DNA sequencing is at that moment. So I just jumped into it and then started with money.
So you rolled your sleeves up, jumped in, and your friend said, "Hey, this is a high demand area. And let's go."
And it turned out it's a pretty good direction. I was just lucky. Yeah.
So that was early 2002,
2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of Eaton Bioscience.
Yes, in San Diego initially. The first couple of years were very tough since it's a very steep learning curve for me to pick up the technical aspect of the service. So I hired someone from UCSD, and she helped me set up the lab, did the customer service on my behalf for half a year while I was learning from her. And then after 1 year, I was on my own, and then started to expand the business. So in about 3 to 4 years, I opened a branch in North Carolina.
Okay.
Simply because a competitor in that location closed the door and moved to another state. So I jumped in and filled in the vacuum there.
Okay. So started San Diego, expanded North Carolina, and then any other areas after that?
Yeah, and also in another 2 to 3 years, I opened another branch in Boston, which is the #1 biotech hub in the whole world. The market size is a lot bigger than San Diego.
So representation in 2 big biotech, Boston and San Diego. Having the locations.
And in another 2 years, we opened the next branch in New Jersey.
Okay.
To cover the New Jersey market as well as the New York City market.
Okay. So we'll fast forward a little bit. So that was 2002, 2003 starting point, and then starting with you, and then maybe one other employee, sounds like, and then you grew to how many employees by 20?
By 2018, 2019, we grow from one-man operation in 2002 to 2019, 2018 to 125 employees.
Wow, 125 employees. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll fast forward to 2019. That's when you were introduced to Centura Wealth Advisory and our team. And I guess maybe we'll fast forward to there and what was going on in right around 2019, I think it was when we initiated.
Yeah, so somewhere around 2017, there was a big company from Europe who showed the interest to acquire Eaton. So we went through the due diligence process. We decided not to proceed simply because the shareholders of Eaton thought that we can do better. Mm-hmm. And then we were introduced to a local consulting group, best CEO group, led by Joe Phillips.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I worked with him for a couple of years, very helpful. And then during the course, we discussed the potential acquisition down the road in the future. And at this point, Joe Phillips introduced me to Centura. Okay. And then we had the first meeting with you and Derek. And I think that's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my whole business life.
Oh, that's great to hear. And that's, for other business owners that may, be considering selling or at some point wanting to sell, one thing that we always try to put out there is, look, there is a lot of planning to be done. We kind of frame it in time periods of gold, silver, and bronze. So there's the gold period is, hey, it's the time period up until you actually sign an LOI. You can do lots of planning, evaluate if there's other strategies that can help. So that's the gold period up until you sign the LOI. The silver is going to be once you sign an LOI up until December 31st of that year when the transaction closes. Probably can't do everything in terms of tax planning strategies, but still plenty of things to consider. The bronze period is going to be once it goes January 1st up until you file the tax return. And you're on the podium looking up, wishing you probably would have started a little early in the planning process. Yeah, I think in this case you were out well ahead of signing any LOIs, and and just kind of considering, hey, I may go to market here. Is my memory correct on that?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's very, very beneficial for us to start several years ahead of the acquisition actually happened. So the most important thing for me is to get the knowledge, get education from you guys. So when we are approached by a suitor, so we can expand our thoughts to include the financial planning aspect into the consideration of the transaction. So that's a very important aspect of it, and I'm very, very fortunate to have you guys give me the education well ahead of the time.
Well, that's great to hear the feedback. And one of the other pieces that we also, again, encouraging other business owners, if they're going to go down this path, is look, you really need, and it's not just us, it's other professionals that have to be involved, and having a great team in place is very important. I know, of course, you worked with, having a CPA, an M&A attorney, all those pieces is an important part. I guess how do you feel about that, or how important was it to you to have those other pieces to help you navigate the process?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very extremely important aspect of it. So in this case, I'm very glad that you guys work with the attorneys I choose, Procopio, and also work with the CPA, Kurt, and also the attorneys. So basically, I think it's very, very helpful for me that you have a group of people work seamlessly together.
You're drinking from the fire hose a little bit in that process, right? Once you get into the process, and there's so many things, almost daily of almost new things coming up, right? So really we need a group of professionals to work together to get things done in the most efficient way. And I think with the help of you guys, we accomplished this goal. Yeah, I think so. And I think in your case, it was a motivated buyer, motivated seller, and it came and they were trying. If I recall, it was, hey, we're going to do this within a few months, and pretty close to happening. I mean, it maybe went on a little bit longer than that, but it was pretty quick process, from what I recall.
Yeah, in this case, I think the reason we moved so fast is that there are two aspects of it. One is that the buyer has been one of the major customers of Eaton, so they knew us already. So, and even physically, we're just across the street. So employees between the two companies went to each other's offices all the time. So we know each other already.
Each other well.
And also the buyer was highly motivated, wanted to close the transaction as quickly as possible. That's one aspect of it. On the other hand, to work with the Centura, with a group of people, attorneys, the CPAs all together, you guys just know each other really well, so that you can coordinate behind the scenes to get things move along quickly. And I think that's another very important aspect of it to get this transaction done.
Yeah, let's jump a little bit to our planning process. We call it our Centura's Liberated Wealth Process. And that was one question I was going to ask you, because we do, as part of our process, do a deep dive. And I think that probably goes back. That was helpful for you is we had maybe a little longer lead times. We started kind of earlier in 2019, and then things extended out where a strategic buyer came in 2021. But it is a fair bit of time. And so I was going to say, or really ask you, if the time that you and Yin had to put in, because you're not only spending time with us, but you're spending time overseeing the transaction, thinking about the outcomes. Are you happy with the outcome, and was it worth that time that you did have to spend?
Yeah, I am. Both I and my wife are extremely happy about the outcome, as well as the whole process. It's a very smooth process. You and Derek work with us closely and look at all aspects of the transaction to ensure that there are no surprises. And so I think the ending result couldn't be better. It went through exactly in the same way we expected.
That's great. That's great to hear. Well, kind of think of any other business owners thinking about this potential process or going through it or thinking about doing the future, is there any other thoughts around the business sale process? Any surprises or anything that you would like to share that might be helpful for someone else?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is, you've touched upon this, the most important thing is to start the planning early. And even though you have not made the decision to exit your business, but even you are still young, it's a remote event, but I think it's still worth efforts to start to talk with people like you guys, so that you get educated what's gonna happen, what you are going to go through, what are the most important things you need to consider before a merger acquisition could have happened, so that you can plan well ahead of time. I think that's a very, very important thing. And that will be exactly what I'm going to do for my future ventures.
No, that's an important point, because we say over and over as much as we can that, 1 or 2 years in advance. And if anything, just to get that baseline in play of like, okay, this is what it would look like. And then you can pivot from there and know that, okay, if because ultimately you don't know, okay, what is that sale going to look like exactly? Okay, even if you don't know, you can kind of put some numbers together and start to plan around that. I think. Yeah. I agree.
And also you can start to consider how to manage your company from early time to reach toward the final goal, to sell it. So that if you can make changes to the structure ahead of time, to our financial practices, make changes, make them the financial aspect of your business to comply with the GAAP. I mean, a lot of things you can do ahead of time to increase the value of your company, and also to make the whole transaction to be in line with your the financial planning of your personal financial life.
Yeah, you want it to be smooth sailing when they come in to do their due diligence, and if you can just make that all smooth sailing, then it just makes that process that much easier.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, I think that's a very important thing to do as early as possible.
Yep. Well, let's just touch real quick on investments. We're early in 2023, so we're looking back to this would have been late 2021, and we kind of know where markets and things have gone since then. But I think one challenge for business owners is that idea of, wow, I'm taking possibly this cash flowing business I have, and now I'm exchanging that. If I sell it, how am I going to generate cash flows? Oftentimes I'm putting in some type of investment portfolio. Do you recall any of the conversations we had? I mean, again, it's been a little while, but we were late 21, and again, looking hindsight, it's like, well, markets all-time highs and things like that. Do you recall some of the conversations we had around investing and kind of the goals there?
Yes, definitely. And to be honest, both I and my wife were surprised that there were so many details we need to consider. And also, we didn't know that there are so many options on the table we have to consider. And we're very thankful to you and Derek to get us through the whole process. Otherwise, more than likely, we're going to get lost.
Well, I think at that time, some of we talked about was like, look, we wanted to really stretch out the time frame. Like, look, we don't want to just take proceeds from Visinella and dump into a stock portfolio. Immediately we took a more conservative approach and wanted to maintain some liquidity. And at the time, even for us, it was looking at some strategic alternative fixed income type of investments that, again, you weren't subject to. Well, we had these super low rates. Well, if rates rise, then prices of bonds get hit. And that's what we saw in 2022. Kind of, again, we have the benefit of hindsight today of saying, well, okay, bonds were down about 13% last year. Stocks were, S&P 500 was down 18%. And so I think it worked well. The idea was, hey, we can take a measured approach. It's all based on your goals, your cash flow needs, all of that. But we can be strategic about this, and it doesn't have to be day one. So I'm glad we spent, like you said, on our platform, we're using often a lot of alternative type of investments that we think bring a lot of value. And so certainly we spend a lot of time around that.
Yeah, and there's a aspect of your service we both I and my wife love is that you basically helped us to plan out the financial aspect of our life in the future, including all the family members. And so it's a long-term and it's all comprehensive cover pretty much every aspect of our life. So we are very grateful for that. Yeah, we've never thought about that far.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah. And most important, making Yin happy, right, in this process as well. She's not here with us today, but I'm glad to hear that she's happy as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think she is living the happiest life so far.
Oh, that's great.
So she, as a result of this transaction and as a result of the financial planning you guys did for us, she retired in September, October of last year.
That's wonderful. And that's, again, the benefit of course, this is what we do, but we enjoy the planning aspect because that's what allows people to start thinking long term. You have an exit from the business and gives you the ability to not just meet your financial needs, but thinking about your family long term, charitable wishes, things like that. It's really all kind of brings it all together, and that's the part of the plan that we really enjoy. So
even it's been only a little bit over a year after the merger acquisition happened, you guys helped us to make several major financial decisions already in the acquisition of commercial buildings, residential house, investments. And
you've been busy, Tony.
Very busy. And I'm glad to say that every decision so far is a correct one and a successful one.
Yeah.
So we're happy about it.
We look forward to many more in the future, and I think that probably a decent place to kind of go into the closing here. And one thing that I really enjoyed working with you is you've said from the beginning of, hey, I love this, I love business, I'm going to do this forever. Maybe forever wasn't the exact words, but as a sort of a lifelong entrepreneur, What's next for Tony?
So I'm not sure yet. I have a commitment to my parent company of 2 years. And as to what I'm going to do after 2 years, I'm not sure yet. But one thing is for sure that I will continue build up companies and go along the entrepreneur journey for the rest of my life.
I love it. Yeah. I love the passion, love the energy, and we really enjoyed, our team here has really enjoyed working with you and Yin, and like I say, we look forward to many years ahead of working alongside you and helping you navigate all these things.
Yes, same with myself and my wife. We enjoy working with you, and we look forward to working with you for the rest of our life.
That's good. Sounds like a great place to wrap. I think that's, thanks again for joining us today, Tony.
Okay, really my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Live Life Liberated podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Centura Wealth Advisory. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Centura Wealth Advisory. Centura is an SEC registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in San Diego, California. Centura and its representatives are in compliance with the current registration and notice filing requirements imposed on SEC registered investment advisors, in which Centura maintains clients. Centura may only transact business in those states in which it is notice filed or qualifies for an exemption or exclusion from notice filing requirements. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Tax relief varies based on client circumstances, and all clients do not achieve the same results.